Call to order the January 16th Capital Projects Committee meeting. Could I have a roll call?
Mrs. Dobler,
Here.
Mr. Kinley,
Here.
Mrs. Petrosky,
Here.
everyone's here.
Thank you.
I was going to go get the list, but I
Anybody?
don't think we need the list.
Okay.
No.
Anyone want to speak on the agenda items from the public?
I'm Mike, but I don't know what the items are, and I can't read, my glasses are strong enough, and I can't read the agenda.
Well, you can save it till after. How's that?
Say it really fast.
Yeah, there's another chance. Okay. Number 4, public discussions. There's 2 items. The Johnson House update. Mr. Wall?
The Johnson House, the bid was awarded to Lycoming Supply. They have started some demo inside the house. I think they're gonna salvage some items in there, and then upon that, they will, bring the house down and finish the site work.
Do we have any kind of estimated date when all that will be done? Well, at least the tear down. They might not put the gravel one out until the spring.
I'd wanna get everything in and out of there before any kind of sport starts in the spring over at the complex.
And remind the committee again what the bid was? It's 31,000 something, or?
Yeah, 31,000 some change. I can't remember exactly what it was. I could pull it up.
Just say 32.
32,000.
Would that include a part of the land doing the things over?
Everything, yeah.
Yeah, the shrubbery and, yeah, the whole shoot match and the parking
The
lot.
gravel and the site work is included, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I looked at that with the contractor up there. We're gonna kind of put a little buffer in between the adjoining properties around there, just in case there shouldn't be any water runoff, because we're not really changing the grade that much, but we're still going to leave probably a stone path pretty much in between all the property. So if we did run into any kind of runoff, it would stop at that point, not run into the neighbor's property.
Any other discussion or questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Wall.
You're welcome.
Saldiesburg roof, Mr. Wall.
I believe the price cost for the work that needs done on Saldiesburg roof was presented. I don't know if that was presented to the board or at a capital projects meeting, both.
So our last capital projects meeting, this committee said they wanted us to get a quote and take it to the board. So that happened I just went and looked. That happened in November. The board, you got the quote in November. We discussed the December meeting. The board said they wanted capital projects to make a recommendation. So that's why it's on the agenda for tonight, is so that the capital projects committee can make a recommendation what to do with this quote. The quote is $572,667. If you remember what Mr. Wall explained before, the quote does include areas 5, and they're labeled as 5, 6, 6A, 8, and 9, and the map is attached to that quote that the board got. It essentially goes across the kitchen, the gym, and the stage area, and then there is a little piece that's lower next to the kitchen. There's an entryway there. That's actually area 9, and then area 8 in the front is the, what do I call it, the canopy, I guess.
And you don't need to put a penny in that as far as I'm concerned. It can fall down.
Can we split that up? That's a good question, Mark. Are we able to split that up, or would we have to go back and get them to re-quote it?
We would have to look at, because we did look at demoing the whole thing
But we found that was expensive.
It
I
is
thought.
expensive, and the other thing, there's, where the roof ties back into the building actually goes onto that roof and then back into the building. So if we wanted to not do the canopy, we could possibly terminate that roof so far out on the awning and then do back to the building. It's probably definitely an option that we could do if we didn't want to do anything with the roof on the canopy.
Let me ask though, because that quote was just from that Tremco or whatever?
Correct.
So you don't think we get a better price if we could bid that out to anyone else
We could,
or do a
that's,
bid?
that's,
you know?
we always have that option. Traditionally, we've always done our roof work with Tremco just because they are a reputable company. And I think we found out with other roofing projects, I know Jersey Shore Elementary, for an example, they hired, I think another company got the job for Jersey Shore Elementary. The district ended up turning around and hiring construction management just for that roof project, and I don't know if it ended up being more or, not that much better of a deal by getting away from them. They do, Tremco does offer a good package when it comes to a roof job like that, but it's always an option to.
I think the thing I need to make sure the board understands is that even though Tremco is a company, this has already been bid. If you look at the beginning of the bid package, Tremco is currently the company that has bid on roof projects with the Joint Purchasing Council. So every year, the Joint Purchasing Council goes out and gets new bids for companies that's willing to do school work. So for example, you wouldn't have to, if we decided in the future someday you wanted to do a parking lot, you would not have to, as a district, go out and do all the legwork yourself to bid the job. You could go to the Joint Purchasing Council, and they've already done that work and have companies available that have bid on, and it's usually by the square foot or the roof square foot or parking lot, whatever their metric is, they've already bid it by the job they're going to do. So what joint purchasing will do then is say to them, well, here's a job that Jersey Shore has, it's this many square foot, you've already bid your square footage price at this amount. So if you want that contract, you have to honor what you already bid on. And the only question at that point is, do they have the time to pull the work off? That's essentially how joint purchasing works, is they've already done the work of bidding out the project and have companies ready to do them.
As a matter of fact, David Maines, that would probably be, if we would go with Tremco, David Maines would probably be the roofing contractor. They reached out to me last week to see where the board stood on Salvysburg project so they could get it on their summer work list for this summer if we decide to do that. But I think they need to know, I think the original email was in February sometime, to get that lined up and make sure they can get everything here to do it.
I believe the bid itself is only good for till the end of January, according to this paperwork. So we have to make it.
That's what it says, yeah.
Yeah, I think we need to get it done, protect our asset. I really do. I think it would be a disgrace to let it go and have a leak, and then you have a problem with black mold. I think we need to get her done.
What is the condition right now of the roof? Are there any leaks or any?
Currently, no, there aren't any leaks. The biggest issue with that type of roof, and we don't have many roofs like that system up there, it's just a single ply rubber type membrane. It just gets brittle, and what we don't want to happen is a large area of that roof fail, and then we do have a real problem. But I mean, I can't say whether that would happen or not, but it's definitely as old as it is, it's definitely a potential of happening.
Now, we have, our warranty runs out, is it November?
November.
Now, just suppose the worst-case scenario, and we do not replace it this summer. If anything does happen this summer, we're covered up until November.
I believe so.
Now, if something happens after November, my recall is that they won't extend the warranty anymore
No,
until
they-
November, right?
No, they've monitored that roof for the last several years pretty closely and honoring that extension of a warranty. And like I said, I myself done a lot of business with Tremco, and Bruce Rogers, and probably before him did a lot of business with Tremco, but have a pretty good relationship with them. And we also do, I don't think any roofing vendor would say, yeah, we're gonna give another warranty, but if you look in what we budget for every other year for buildings, we do a building maintenance with Tremco, and they maintain our roofs, so they know they know what shape that they all are in, not just Salisbury, but it gives them something to look at, to give them some insurance that hopefully this doesn't fail, and we don't have to, come back and fix it.
And what are they putting on? Are they taking that roof off, or are they going
Well,
to be?
the problem is, not the problem, but to bring that up to local code, it has to have a certain R value, no matter if it's old or new. But the insulation requirements are so thick right now that changes everything. When your roof drains will all be a different elevation when they come through the roof, all that stuff will have to be changed. But what dictates that is local code. There's nothing we can do about that. That's every roof project we've done the last few years have been like that, just for the code.
So we can't put like a metal roof over top of the roof that's
You can,
there?
but it just has to have whatever the code value is, no matter what you put on it, it still has to have that R value, which some roofing has an R value to add to that, to the insulation, but nothing that's not
To
thick.
answer your question, it's a flat roof, so in order to put a metal roof on, you'd have to
Yeah, right,
add
pitch it.
infrastructure for that. The first line in the quote is remove existing roof system and flashings down to the decking. So yes, the removal's included.
Okay, so we have to decide whether we're gonna make a recommendation to the board, this committee.
Yep, this committee, that was what I took away from the board conversation, was the committee needs to make a recommendation for what is going to go on the agenda.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion that we
Yeah.
complete the
Yeah.
roof on Salisbury.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, any more discussion? Well, I would be against it. I think that we're deep into the decision or the debate on whether Salisbury will remain open. And I think investing $600,000 into a roof at this point, when at this moment we do not have any problems, I just think that is not a prudent investment by the district. Especially since we have almost $10 million of other capital projects that are also in our priority list. Any other discussion?
I still believe we need to protect the school. I don't believe there's enough room at Avis. I think we'll find that out. I was looking at the Hunt study, the capacity limit there is 270 70. And if you put fourth and fifth grade in there, that puts it way over capacity. There's work that would have to be done to Avis before the kids could even begin to think about going out there. Do you know right now that a lot of the kids are eating on the stage because there's no room? And that's with just the amount of kids that are in the school right now. The gym would have to be, there'd have to be a new gym built on. There's all kinds of work that would have to be done. I'm sorry, but I don't see it. I've tried to, it's like putting a square peg in a round hole. It does not fit. So we have to protect what we have and try to make it from here to there, get out of debt, and then we can do something in the school district as far as whatever it is that we decide to do. That's my opinion.
Any other discussion?
And I'd like to see the cost of that canopy.
Do you think we can get an updated quote before the, I shouldn't ask that. We didn't vote yet, so I don't know what I'm doing. But I think they could probably update that quote. Since they already generated it, I'm hoping they can do it quickly.
They probably already have it pieced out in their own figure.
Yeah, I can probably get that tomorrow.
Are we also saying the other pieces, they're all pretty much in the same shape?
Yeah.
Because they have the same,
The canopy's actually older than what
Yeah.
the existing roof that we're mentioning is, but it's all the same style roof, same insulation underneath. It was all done at the same time minus the canopy.
Yeah, they're different heights here, but I think they're all the same age.
and the canopy is not leaking either, right?
Not to my, no. I would know much more if it was leaking in the building and not out there, but I don't believe that it's leaking out there either.
Right.
But yeah, there's two different types of roofs on Salisbury. The majority of the roofing up there is built-up roof. That's what we traditionally have here in the district. And the roofs were done at different times. The other roofs weren't ready yet when the other roofs were put on, is why they other buildings are definitely spread out like that, and you'll notice that too. Roofs just weren't ready to be replaced when renovations were done. It's just how it goes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, we'll roll call vote.
Ready for vote?
Yeah.
Mrs. Dobler?
Yes.
Mr. Kinley?
No?
Mrs. Petrosky?
Yes.
Motion passes 2-1. So my question is, Mr. Wall will get an updated quote. I don't know how long that will take. We're hoping quick.
So we wanna get an updated quote on terminating the canopy from the building and do what we have to weather tight the building, and then everything else will let go.
Yeah. And then we will put that quote on an agenda. I hope we have it by the 23rd, but I can't commit to that. So if not, it would be I'll get you the date. The 13th, February 13th is a meeting. And other questions about that?
Okay, moving on to courtesy of the floor, and this will be open to the public for any comment on anything. Please state your name and your address.
Merle Schweitzer, 325 Joe Drun Road, Jersey Shore, 17740. I'm in Region 1 of the school district. The discussion you're having about the roof, is the roof still under warranty?
Yes, until November of 2023.
And what does that mean? Say the roof would fail, would the company that you have the warranty with, would they and they would have to replace, maybe have to replace the whole roof. Would they do that?
They would make the roof weather tight.
They'd repair just the area that's leaking. They wouldn't replace the entire
They
roof.
would just make sure the building was
Yeah.
watertight.
Yeah. And how many times have we, I know I know what you're doing here, but how many times has we've extended the warranty on this particular section of roof? Seems to me like it's been 3 or 4 times.
Correct.
And you can't do that anymore.
No.
When the Johnson House, when will that actually be demolished? You know, when they're gonna actually tear it down?
Working with them to have it done before any kind of spring sports starts up there at the high school.
Before when?
Spring sports.
Does that include graveling then afterwards, filling in the hole and?
Yeah, the whole, the whole site will be basically stripped off and have 2A sub-base rolled everywhere around there for parking.
I want to go back to the roof and the quote. I mean, you're talking about a $500,000 quote. I never heard of a $500,000 quote. Normally, I don't know if they changed the rules, but if the project is between 10,000 and 20,000, you can get a quote. But anything over 20,000, you have to bid. So that's really a bid, isn't it?
It's cooperative purchase.
500,000 has to be a bid, right?
It's cooperative purchasing.
Yeah. And Dr. Armour, you were talking about that's like, I don't understand this cooperative bidding. Like, I'm used to, on a roof project, have the architect come in, do the drawing and specification, and bid it locally. But the system that we're using now, we're not bidding. We're not bidding it locally. We're just going to Tremco, a company that we use, and they automatically get the bid. And I don't know.
So it's already been bid, that's what, so the bid process has already been satisfied because
Okay.
joint purchasing every year puts out who wants to be roofing contractors, and if you do, what is your square footage work cost going to be? And whoever gives them the lowest cost,
Yeah.
that's who is qualified to bid on the projects for that year through joint purchasing. And so right now, one of their approved bidders is Tremco. So Tremco will work at that price and can do this project, and they've already bid on work for this type of work.
Well, okay, that's good. Well, what about the local contractors, local roofing contractors? I know this was in the past. They were upset because they didn't have an opportunity to bid on the job. So when they the company that's doing the bidding, is it advertised widely? So that the roofing contractors and the waste board in this area should know about it and they should be able to bid on it. That's what you're telling me.
They would
right?
have to bid to joint purchasing when joint purchasing advertises annually, and they have to satisfy all the advertising requirements we do in order for it to qualify.
So that has been bid and it's been publicized and it's been bid. It's not cut and dried and going just to one contractor. Yeah. Okay, thanks for
You're
clarifying
welcome.
that.
And
Yeah.
so I'll add to that. One of the things that I talked about parking lots, like they have a whole list of types of projects they can do that joint purchasing will give you quotes on. All of those types of work have to be bid. And so what they do every year is they rebid them so that whoever is the lowest bidder, that's who's eligible to do that work through them for the next year. I used them one other time in another district for a plumbing project. We had a sewer line that was under a building that needed to be replaced, and they had a contractor who had bid on plumbing work, and so that's who we used.
Well, Mark, you go through joint purchasing, do you give them the specifications and you work with them do you help them prepare the bid specs? I guess that's what I'm asking.
Well, we have a roof management program with Tremco. Tremco doesn't actually do the roof work. Anybody can do Marcon, David Maines and Associates. Anybody can do this work. And we kind of have a little flexibility of who we want to do the work. Traditionally, this district's used Marcon, David Maine Associates, several others in the past, Blair Roofing, but they all work under that same joint purchasing contract that goes out every year.
But who gives them the information, like for this Jersey Shore, who gives them the information? Do you work directly with them, or do you go to Tremco and then Tremco goes to them? I don't understand.
I work directly with Tremco.
Yeah.
Only because we have a roof management plan with Tremco. When I came to this district, they already had that established with Tremco. So Tremco, like our roofing plan, like it almost has a little world to itself, just like capital projects does, but it's all roof stuff. Every school we have a spreadsheet of when the roof was put on, any damages that occurred to the roof since it was put on, and all of that stuff is documented. They come here 3 times a year and do scans on our roofs.
Yeah, I understand all that. I understand all that.
That's what I'm
talking about
explaining to you
specifically
how I work with Tremco.
the bidding process and how this company that does this bidding, how they get the information in order to do the bid. And you're telling me that it goes to Tremco and then Tremco goes to them. And I just have a little question about that maybe.
Yeah, as long as the contractors are a vendor to work under that, they fully can.
On the capital projects schedule, we have a schedule of capital projects in-house that we did. What capital projects are on the schedule, say, for this year, our in-house project plan that we had? What capital projects are on the schedule for this budget year? Do you have that information? I'm talking about the plan with the red lines and the projects and the dates that you, Mark, you put together, came up with. Were there any capital projects scheduled on that plan for the 2300 budget year? We have any capital projects for this year from our original capital projects plan? I guess that's what
There's
I'm
nothing
asking.
scheduled from capital projects. I think the board directed us to hold off on any projects until everything gets kind of figured out what we were doing.
So what's been scheduled previously in-house, that plan, and that there's projects I think that are on that for this coming year. Just that you're not doing anything with that. It's on a hold.
I would say yes, there's not real, I mean, we're doing the Johnson House project, but I don't believe that was on.
Yeah, that was
That-
on, that's been on the agenda, on
Yeah,
that.
It's
yeah,
been on the list for quite a while.
Yeah, and I think the roof project's been on there too, in fact, yeah. But I was just wondering, 2023, the plan, what specific projects were listed on that for consideration? And what you're telling me, you're not looking at those, you're not considering anything that's on that plan. It's in a hole because of the Hunt study. Is that what you're saying?
I would say yes, and I think there's also stuff that we are doing, that if we looked at that document you're talking about, probably was on there, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago that never got done. So I don't know that we can say, well, we're gonna jump and do the 2023 stuff on the list, because some of the 2021 stuff never got done, and some of the 1998 stuff never got done.
Yeah, see, I don't quite agree with that because I know we had.
We've been talking about the Johnson House since,
That's been going
When?
on, that's been ongoing, yeah, right. But that was, that's been it's an ongoing,
A lot of controversy on the Johnson House.
but
And
yeah,
that changed when you built the little efficiency
Mhm.
house. And so
I
that
guess
changed
what
the
I'm-
controversy on the Johnson
yeah, what I'm asking is, on the old plan, if you will, for this coming year, if we looked at the items on there, and perhaps there may be an item on there that Hunt didn't identify, and it may be an item that should be looked at as a priority. I.e., for example, the chemistry lab in the high school. I know we walked through that. The chemistry lab in the high school, when the Building and Grounds Committee looked at it, I think my last year on the board, we agreed that this is a high priority. This is something somehow slipped through the cracks, if you will. And there's a question, and I think that was put on, I think that was it was added. It was then added to the capital project. So I don't know what happened to that.
Did anything happen to it? Didn't we have an audit or something with CTE of things
No,
that
he's
needed to
talking
be
about
done?
chemistry, that's not CT.
Yeah, the lab
Oh, it
in the
isn't. That's a
the
regular
chemistry
chemistry lab.
classroom.
The
Yeah,
original science classrooms in the high school. That were-
the high school, yeah.
They
But-
were- Because they were not addressed when the high school was renovated. They're still original.
Yeah, you're right. That's right. They got, yeah. So,
Well, the new ones they put in were addressed.
The new ones,
In the old part of the building, they didn't touch anything.
yep.
so my next question has to do with the building committee, Building and Grounds Committee, with the superintendent, the plant supervisor, the building principal, the director of the physical plant, and the chairperson of the capital project. That committee went around to all the buildings every year and looked at the items that were scheduled for that particular year, and then looked at the items. Is that committee still active or not? And then there was always a written report. Mark was the chairperson of that committee, and he always wrote up a nice minutes of the visits. And those minutes I know were shared with board members, but I don't know if they were shared any further. But I'm just curious to whether that committee was still active. It's created by Dr. Winrich, and I really liked it. It was a really good idea. But what's the status of that?
We did it in the last year. We went to all the buildings, and it wasn't just,
Yeah, you go to all the buildings. Yeah, you go to all the buildings.
we went to all, it wasn't just this group, but WIT was open to the whole board.
Okay.
Buildings and athletic facilities, we did all of them.
Yeah, you do buildings and grounds, right. So that committee's is still active, you're telling me. See, what else? What's the debt, our facilities debt, for the district debt that we have? What is the debt right now? Is it around 20 million, or is it less or more? What is it?
I'd have to go look it up. I don't have it in
I
front of
think,
me.
well, it was, I think, 21 million, and are we still paying 2.5 million a year on that? I can bring up anything. I'm curious about the interest. We never talk about the interest. We talk about how much we're paying on the debt, but there's an interest payment that goes with that as well.
It's less than 1%. We refinanced,
Is it 1.014%?
I want to say
I thought-
0.8.
0.0147.
It was less than 1, I do know that.
Oh, it was
The
less.
last time we refinanced,
Yeah,
it was less than 1.
0.01, okay. But that, if you multiply that out, that comes to what? A couple $100,000, I think, a year interest on the loan, on that $21 million loan. But we never advertise how much interest we're also paying on that loan, so. If there's anything else, I'm trying to think if I had any other questions. What's the status of the Hunt? Yeah, I can ask this. What's the status of this Hunt report? I mean, they evaluated our buildings and made up a humongous list of projects that they thought needed to be done, and I disagreed, but that's me disagreeing. What is the status of that? It also included an enrollment evaluation as well, like, what, 44,000 and 22,000? But what is the status of the Hunt report?
So we have presented to this committee two different, they've prioritized HVAC and building envelope. The committee and the board have both of those lists prioritized by building and a cost, an estimated cost. That's where we are.
Do you have any idea what the estimated cost is? I don't want, I wouldn't like to see, I'm talking about kind of representing the taxpayers here. I don't like to see us adding on to our $21 million debt that's going to be on facilities, that's going to be paid for in 2030, but then we turn right around and add another 10 or 15 million to that because of the Hunt study. I want to be really careful about the Hunt study and all the projects that they recommended, because I just don't see that all those projects, they don't need to be done now or within the next 3 or 4 years. It's a heck of a shopping list, and the buildings are already in good shape. And then for Hunt to come up with all these projects, I was really disappointed in Hunt. I think they went way overboard, and the projects that they identified, and they identified projects that they thought need to be done when they don't need to be done. So I'm really interested in this. I think you sanitized that Hunt list. It was over 182 items. You're telling me that you've gone through that and that you've picked out certain items that you think should be considered.
Mm-hmm. Because there are items we took off of the list that we said we didn't need or we were gonna do in-house.
But that list, I haven't seen that list. That hasn't been publicized. That hasn't been shown to the public, right?
Correct.
Can you tell me, I'm going to get off this, but how many items
So
is on that list?
I pulled up both lists that I gave to the committee and the board. So
Yeah.
the HVAC list, and the HVAC alone, all 5 building, any HVAC upgrades, was 5.2 million.
Okay,
That's across the entire district.
yeah.
I'm just double checking, does that include what we already did at the high school? I don't have that right off the top of my head, but looking at the list. And then building envelope, which I'll give you a sample of what that could be: windows, doors, roof, whatever. That is a total of 2.5 million. So we took those 2 envelope items that this group said was a priority, and we pulled out just those.
Okay, well, that's good. That sounds good. I had another question, but then I just forgot what it was. That's what happened when you get younger. So you're not anticipating then a large increase in the overall facilities budget as a result of the Hunt study and the Hunt findings? There may be, you're saying you mentioned HVAC, and it's a couple $1 million, but we're not looking at $160 million or $150 million or even $50 million.
I think even if we took everything that was a priority and put it together,
It's
you
under 8.
have 22.6 million.
22.6 million, yeah, but you're not looking at going that far, and not adding 22 million onto the 21 million debt that we already have. That's what I'm getting.
No, not at this point. The board hasn't committed to anything
Okay.
like that.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Anybody else want to comment from the public?
Mike Allen, Nipponos Township. I'm just gonna ask a question. I'm not commenting on anything at this point. I just would like to know if the roof at Salzburg is older than the mechanical room.
As far as
How old is the boiler compared to
nineteen
what the roof is?
sixty-seven, so the boiler's older than the roof, yeah, by
Okay.
far.
So is it safe to say that the boiler may go bad before the roof? Possibly. This is just something that I was thinking about sitting here tonight, that if we put $500,000 into this roof, and then all of a sudden, something happens in the mechanical room, I know there's not a spare boiler in there.
Yeah, there's,
So it's something that concerns me a little bit, because
oh,
if-
me as well, for sure.
you know how it got down so low in temperature here lately. If something goes wrong there, you're in the same boat with Avis also.
One boiler,
So-
one water heater.
One
Right.
thing with Avis, there is two boilers at Avis, but, the setup at Salzburg, the boiler heats all the heating water for the unit vents, rooftop units, things like that, but the boiler also heats the domestic hot water for the building too, the 120, 140-degree water. So once that boiler's down, the heating, the hot water, it's all down all at the same time. And there's absolutely no redundancy on any of that up there. Avis has two boilers, and then Avis has a hot water tank that heats the domestic water, which is a little bit different. But, yeah, I mean, the boiler at Salzburg is original to the building. It's something that we have serviced and inspected on an annual basis, but, you know, if it was 3 years ago, I would say parts are readily available for anything that'll just, by nature, they just are, but I've been finding more and more parts and things like that just aren't available anymore like they used to be, and if they are, it's a long, long, long time before you get them. And I just see that with everything in my world here that I deal with, and it's been a little bit of a struggle to even get basic things that we used to be able to get pretty quickly, and really gotta look now.
That's anywhere.
And it's everywhere.
I can give you a number that Hunt is part of their 45 or 50 million total list. We're looking at 900,000 for HVAC at Salzburg. And Mark and administration identified that as a high priority. In fact, you know, when this was presented way back in the summer, it was prioritized for the current year, 22-23. So that's out of the 2.2 million that they identified for 22-23, that was part of that 900,000 just for the HVAC at Salzburg.
So if we keep that building open, we're gonna have to do this, is what we're saying, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm just making sure I'm on the same page here.
Mark, you have an inspector come in every year, it goes through the boilers every summer, so they're being checked, the boilers are being checked every year, and that inspector will tell you if you have a boiler that they think needs to be replaced. So that process that's a good process, and I understand that, I hate to interrupt, but that's in
That
place.
process is in
So
place.
it's not, boilers are not being checked by an outside expert, they are being checked every summer. And so that gives you a real good feel of how, you know, what the condition of your boilers are.
Yeah, I mean, but just like I can explain further, these boilers we don't just start them and they run all year long. We have issues with them. We've had issues with Salzburg boiler this winter. It quit a few times on us. We got it back up and running, was able to get parts for it. And, I mean, luckily, we salvaged parts from the high school boilers that were removed that we could just readily thousands of dollars worth of parts that we saved and could throw them right on the Salzburg boiler, and they worked out. But like I said, parts going forward, I'm not real optimistic on how they're gonna be to acquire.
Was there AC involved with that 900,000 at Salzburg?
No, that's a separate line.
Okay.
The 900,000 is the boiler replacement and redundancy, the classroom unit ventilators, and the domestic water heater replacement and redundancy.
Okay.
Those are those are actually the top 3 priority items that sell: the boiler, the unit ventilators, and the water heater.
All right, thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Isn't one of our schools gas or not?
They're all gas.
They're all gas? Even Sal's gas?
The last school we had that was full electric was Jersey Shore Elementary, and that was changed when the renovation was done, but all our boilers are natural gas.
Yeah, and they're trying to do away with natural gas.
So
Then
they
what are we gonna
So
have?
they say.
All electric?
And the electric just happens by magic.
I know. It's a bizarro world right now.
Any other public comment?
Sure, Merle, you can take my time. No, I don't have anything to say.
She's being smart, Merle.
I'm going to go, this is a procedure question with courtesy of the floor. It applies here, but also it's a question as to with the main meeting. We have the first courtesy of the floor on items that are on the agenda, but the public has to ask their questions before the items are actually put on the agenda and are in a discussion phase. What I've been thinking that every item that goes on the agenda, you get a motion and a second, and there's, the board president asks for discussion and questions. At that time, when that ends, you turn to the public and say, any questions from the public? Any questions from the public? Just like tonight, when you were discussing, I had a lot of comments, I had a lot of questions as you were discussing the item, but then after the items were discussed, I've forgotten what my questions are. But as you're sitting and listening to a discussion on a particular item, the audience can have questions, but you can't ask your questions, and you can't participate, and you go ahead and vote, and then at the end of the board meeting, you can ask questions and anything that was not on the agenda. So if you had any questions on the agenda that came up on the agenda from the agenda item to agenda item, you don't have an opportunity to ask the question.
Thank you. Anybody else? Hearing none, we will go to the last item G, the date of our next meeting. And we're looking at May 15th at 6 p.m. Do you know what day of the week that is?
I believe
Monday?
they're all Mondays.
Yeah.
They're all Mondays between board
Yeah,
meetings.
the off Mondays is what we've, yeah.
It's on the back.
At this point, does anybody have a problem with that date? Okay. We'll go with May 15th at 6 o'clock here in the administration boardroom. Any other business? Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second, thanks.
Have a good night.
Meeting adjourned.